Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lenz VO podcast. My name is Mike Lenz. I'm an entrepreneur and a full-time professional voice actor and audiobook narrator. My goal is to share with you stories from some of the most amazing and inspiring people from all areas of the voiceover industry to help you achieve your dream of becoming a professional voice actor. So please leave me a review over on iTunes and join us over on the web at mikelenzvopodcast.com to be notified of each episode when it comes out. Now, get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Lenz VO podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to remind any audiobook narrators out there who are listening about my monthly audiobook narrator workouts. I limit these to only 5 participants per workout so we can do a deep dive into each narrator's piece. Each participant brings a 2 to 3 minute audiobook piece to work on, and you perform your piece and receive feedback from me and also from the other members of the workout. It's an hour and a half, and it's a great opportunity to hone your audiobook narration chops. It's open to all experience levels. We've had people on the narrator workouts that have had no titles to people that have had hundreds of titles. So it doesn't matter what experience level you're at. It's just a safe space for you to share with others and level up your talent. The cost at the moment is $75 per workout, and we meet over Zoom. And if you want to be added to my mailing list, just drop me a line at mlenzvoice@gmail.com. That's mlenzvoice@gmail.com. Mail list subscribers get first dibs on the spots before I announce the workouts on social media, and they do fill up quickly. So if you're interested, let me know. Also, be sure to give me a follow over on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn if you haven't already. I talk all about my journey and the VO and audiobook industry on my social media, and I'd love to connect with you there. All right, so on today's episode, my guest is Katie Keary. Katie is relatively brand new to the audiobook industry. We've been working together on her journey. She's been an active member of our audiobook narrator workouts, and she got some exciting news this past week that I will let her share with you. So, Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So you are coming to us from your brand new home recording studio. So let's start by having you share with our listeners a little bit about your journey into this amazing industry.
Okay, so Mike and I actually were introduced a while back. A few years ago, I would say it was probably early 2020s, maybe. I was working for a non-for-profit Alzheimer's Association, and there was another person that I was working with in there that was talking about this new thing she was into, voice acting and narration, and she was just such a lively person, and she told me, there's someone right here in Saratoga that you should connect with. I think that you could do this. I must have told her I liked musical theater or something and was all into stuff like that. And so she said, you should do it. You should do it. So I connected with Mike, and it's been a long time coming. And Mike has been super patient with me. You've been super patient with letting me figure out, getting through my fears, and finally taking action and getting the studio together and doing the workshops and actually taking some action. So it's been a journey.
And what was the news that you got this past week?
So I have gotten my first book. I'm very excited.
Congratulations.
So it's a children's book, and those jitters of wondering if you can do this, trying to just get past that is the biggest thing that I've been actively having to deal with and just pushing through. Because I did that, I was able to just say, you know what, I'm just going to audition. I've been doing this work. I just need to try it. And if I don't get it, then I don't get it. It's okay. And thankfully, because I did that and I just went with what I was attracted to, which was this, particular children's book, this author, I was like, let's just try this. And it worked out for the best.
And you got it.
So.
You got it. Yeah, that's fantastic. And, let's take a little deeper dive into that journey, because when you first decided you wanted to do that, I remember we connected, and I was also had done some work with your dad, helping him with a podcast that he was launching. So, and I think you and I connected first, and then I think I connected with your dad. But we had a little group that would meet periodically in our local downtown. And I said, hey, why don't you come on down and join us? And we had like a little coffee gathering maybe once a month. And I think that's where we first met. And you got to meet some other people that were in the industry that were at different stages. And I think just finding that little slice of community is really, really helpful. I think you'd agree, right? Especially when you're getting started and you have no idea what to do, where to turn, to have somebody to sit down and talk with about it, or a small group of people that are kind of a little bit further ahead than you are in the journey, that's really helpful, isn't it?
100%. I mean, I don't think I would have moved forward with this desire to try this, if I didn't feel like I had support of people who really knew the industry. Um, I'm a person that I've always done the traditional way of getting an education where got my undergrad, got my master's, and it was always someone giving me specific directions, specific assignments that if you do this, you will receive this at the end.
Hmm.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And this was my first time as an adult doing something where we don't know what's going to happen with it. You just gotta be flow. You gotta flow. You gotta be okay with not understanding pieces of it and still just going for it anyway. But having that baseline, having people like you that I know I can ask questions to and truly want to see others succeed in this industry, it makes it feel like a safe space, like I do have somewhere to fall when I don't understand something.
Yeah.
So it's 100% important, I would say, to know other people and to network and connect.
Yeah, and it is a networked industry, right? It's not linear in terms of systems. It isn't that straight path that you talked about. It's all about making connections and putting yourself out there and in many different areas of the industry to hopefully find get some traction somewhere. And I know in the beginning for me that reaching out and joining groups on social media and going to conferences and just the discovering other people that were interested in doing this and that were doing it. And when I started the podcast about 10 years ago, interviewing people that were further ahead on the journey than I was, it really did make me realize that, wait a minute, there are people out there that are doing this for a living. I know I'm not really anywhere near that point right now, but listening to their journeys makes me realize that, maybe my journey will carry me to that point eventually. And the nice thing about VO, even somebody that's in your position where you have a full-time job, you've got you're paying your bills, you've got that luxury of saying, look, I can explore this industry, and even if it's a hobby, a part-time gig, a side hustle, or ultimately becomes a full-time job for me, there's many options in front of me. And you've got the security of knowing that you've got income coming in while you explore this other world. So that gives you a little bit of peace of mind, I guess. I never recommend people throw caution to the wind and quit their day job and just dive into VO because it's way too complicated and risky to do that. But I think you're doing it the right way, and that does give you a little bit more freedom.
Absolutely. I work in education, so my hours do give me the opportunity to do this after work, do this on holidays, do this. I have all summer. So I'm very lucky in that sense as well. But yeah, knowing that that is there has also given me the confidence to be like, you should still go for this. There's nothing holding you back but yourself. So, absolutely, it makes me feel more secure knowing that I have something else going on too. And I grew up in the restaurant industry, and that would have been something else I would, as a second job, probably would have gone for if I didn't finally choose to do something I really, really wanted to do. So that is also my motivator that I don't want to go back into that and I want to do this. So it is one of those things where, yes, obviously the income piece of it, but also the creativity opportunity. Um, in my job, there's a little bit of room for creativity, but not as much as here. And this is something that allows me to do that and makes me feel invigorated when I'm done. When I get out of the studio, I feel pumped. So it's that feeling that you probably got when you were a kid, when you were doing a hobby or a club or a sport. I'm experiencing that again, and that makes me realize I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to go for it.
I love that creativity piece because I think there's creativity in everybody. I think we all have it in us. And I know when you were younger, you mentioned you did a lot of theater and musicals, and you were always wanting to be up there on a stage doing that kind of thing. And for some reason, it's, as when we're kids, we have so much creativity, and then we like grow up, quote unquote, and then we're supposed to leave that behind. And I don't know that we should. I think for some reason we sort of get that beat out of us as we're growing up. And, it's unfortunate. I know for the careers that I was in had very little creativity. And when I finally had an opportunity to let that bubble to the surface, I was like, even to this day, I pinch myself every time I come down to the studio to go to work. And I'm like, this is what I get to do. People pay me to do this. And and that was never not there. I just think I tamped it down over the years. So seeing you being able to express yourself creatively again is just really fun to watch because you've really got that innate talent in you.
Well, thank you. And I would say that it's been so deep down inside for so long that when we've done work together, I've had to relax myself enough to allow that to come out because there's still, when we're trying to do character voices or, make it clear that there are different characters in something, I hesitate a little bit to fully allow myself to do it, even if it sounds wonky or weird in my head. Did that sound like too much? Um, Working with you has made it so I'm like, just do it.
Hmm.
Just do it. And the more you practice it, the more natural it feels to do that. Uh
Let those emotions come out. That's the hardest part,
yes. Yes.
is
Yes,
the
yes.
emotion underneath the line is one of the biggest struggles. I think the two biggest struggles I've seen new narrators make creatively is uh, they go too fast, right? So you don't slow down and let the line breathe. How many times in workouts have I said that? Just slow
Oh my
down.
gosh,
Just slow
yes.
down. Let the line land. Let the listener's brain catch up. And then number two is understanding the emotion underneath the words. And if we can lean into the emotion, if we understand the emotion as performers, then the words will take care of themselves. But if we're reading the words thinking, okay, in this scene, I'm supposed to be scared, so I have to act scared, I have to act sad or happy, as opposed to allowing yourself to be happy or be scared or be mad and then do the lines, it's a whole different ballgame. And that's a struggle that we all have because we have a hard time letting people see that vulnerability in us. But as actors, that's our job. And the really good actors are really good at making you believe that they are who they are, that they're not just an actor reading lines. So that's a big challenge. And we've worked on that. And I've seen it in the workouts with you where you have let yourself go and lean into that emotion. And you know what a difference it makes in the performance.
Oh yeah, when we've done different takes of things, it's very clear just looking at recordings or feeling it myself.
Hmm.
Like, oh wow, I was really feeling uh uncomfortable in that first one because it's very monotone. And then I started to actually slow down. That's the biggest thing. That I've learned I have to slow down and allow myself to get within the character.
Hmm.
What would this character be feeling? And when you ask in those in our audiobook narration workshops, what do you think this person is feeling right now? What's the feeling? Having to think about that first, and why do you think they'd be feeling that? I mean, they're in this scary place, they're vulnerable. There's no one else there with them. Whatever it may be, whatever the
Yeah.
character is
How
going
would
through,
you
having
feel
to
if you were in that situation, right?
exactly, exactly. Trying to hone in on that is very valuable if you want to sound professional. And yeah,
As PJ Oakland says, feel me a story, don't tell me a story. Let the
yes.
emotions come forward. So let's talk about your studio because you're not living in a particularly conducive audio sounding space. So you got this father that is kind of handy, from what I've heard, and you now have a studio. So how'd that all happen?
So after we met, my dad also decided, he was gonna, uh, he wanted to do the narration for his own book. So I introduced him to you, and then of course he's like, "Oh, Mike, it's great. Now you guys are pals."
We're pals.
But now because of that, he recognizes all the work that it takes to actually do stuff like this. And I let him know, I'm gonna have to get a booth because I live in an apartment where there's not a lot of quietness. You're gonna hear everything. And he said, "You're not gonna, done. We're gonna do it. We're gonna figure it out." And he just decided to start building a booth. I don't know how he did it, if he did any research. I'm assuming he did, but he ended up building me a booth and, pallet by pallet brought it into the apartment. And so
Amazing.
that is what I am in right now. We are in the works after now doing my first recording, figuring out little pieces that need to be adjusted. And I think obviously that's normal. I wouldn't know it until I try it.
Hmm.
So now I know there's certain adjustments that need to be made. But all in all, I have a studio now, and I didn't know if I'd come this far. And it kind of made it real when he built the studio. It made it real.
Yeah, when you commit to taking that next step, and I want to talk a little bit about that too, because it is a sequential thing in the sense that you ultimately have to make the decision that you want to pursue this, and then you've got to ask yourself, okay, what's next? Because it can be very overwhelming when you think about the whole process, right? It's like sort of if you're standing at the base of a mountain and you look up at the top of the mountain and you see that there's people up there and you're thinking, I want to be there, but I have no idea how to get there. And instead of thinking about how do I get to the top of the mountain, what do you need to do next? So next, you probably need to buy a backpack, right? Something as simple as, buying boots, for hiking. Instead of thinking so far ahead, bring it back to the present moment. If I was going to succeed, if I was going to get to the top of that mountain, if I couldn't fail, what's the first thing I would do? What's the next thing I would do? And do that. And then once you do that, the next step becomes more and more clear. You've been doing that step by step, methodically going through the process. And I think that's a really important piece for people to understand. You're not going to get all the way to where you want to get to immediately. And you have to be willing to take the time and have the mental fortitude to do those things step by step. And even if you don't have a handy father who can build you a home studio, most people probably have a closet.
Hmm.
They probably have clothes that they can
Hmm.
put in that closet or are already there. A friend of mine, Marie Pendolino, who's a successful voice actor, she always says, just make it work. Make it work. Wherever you are, make it work. So you can record audiobooks in your closet if it's properly treated. You don't need a big recording space, but you need to take the steps necessary to get yourself in a position where you can actually compete in the industry. That's a very, very important thing. So, in terms of that journey, what were some of those early obstacles? I know you talked about just being able to commit yourself mentally that it's something that I want to do. What were some of those early obstacles that you had to overcome to get to this point where, hey, I'm recording my first audiobook?
I would say investing wholeheartedly into it. Now, obviously, like you were saying, I'm a perfectionist in many ways where, I was like, no, I need the full thing. I need all the tech. I need all the things for me to even try, and I realized very quickly just by doing different workshops and also the 5-week course with Larry Hudson, just hearing where everybody was at, where they were sitting, what they were doing, how they were doing it. It made me realize like, oh, people are also at the beginning flying by the seat of their pants. So we're all trying to figure it out, and you can make it work, and you need to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
You need to be okay with being maybe in a hot closet for a little bit until you really are like, okay, now I feel confident this way. Now I can move forward and do this. Um, so I would say being okay with not everything being perfect was a big thing. Um, Trying to understand the technology.
Mm.
Woo! I
We're,
am
s-
not
we're
that
still
tech.
working on that. We're still
Yeah,
working on that.
we are. I'm not that tech savvy, but uh trying to be patient and say, okay, this is not working. Why is the sound not working on this? Obviously, I hound you, but also doing some research on why would this be happening here and giving myself a little bit to figure it out. uh, that's a big piece. Doing all the research and trying to understand the technology you're using, like the interface and the microphone and the headphones and where the wires go. It sounds, juvenile when I say it that like that, but truly, I'm sure there's lots of people that go into this industry with needing more technology skills. So seeking that out, and that was one of the first things you had guided me to do was get that get that education
Hmm.
on the DAW, and figuring out how to use it. So that was very helpful. It made me feel like, okay, yes, I'm not the best at this part of it, but I can become better, and I just need to listen to experts, connect with experts, and that definitely helped me. So being okay with not being perfect, but taking the steps. I'd say technology is one that I'm still working on.
Yeah, I mean, I love that line too. I love that being comfortable with not being perfect because that is a big challenge, and sometimes, well, not more often than not, you've got to be bad in order to be good.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself permission to not be so great. I don't want people going back and listening to the first audiobook I ever narrated. Yours is a lot better than the first one I ever did. Believe me, I don't, nobody needs to go look that up because you get better, as you go through. And every mistake that you make, every technical hurdle that you have experienced in your young career has taught you something. You've learned things, and Larry Hudson is another voice actor who teaches classes in not only Audacity but also Adobe Audition, which are digital audio workspaces, which is what DAW stands for. There are all kinds of technical hurdles that you have to overcome, but usually once you figure it out, whatever the particular issue is, like why do I have that? Why is my room tone so high? Or why do I hear that buzzing? Or what's the right decibel level that I need to be at for this audition? Once you learn it once, you tend to not forget it. But you've got to go through the struggle, I guess, a little bit of not understanding it and then figuring it out. And then you won't ever forget it again. And then you'll move on to the next and to the next and to the next. And so that's where a lot of frustration comes in. I remember when I was young, I used to watch Wimbledon, and then I'd convince somebody to go out and play tennis with me. And I didn't, hit the ball as well as like Roger Federer did. So then I would stop because I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to win Wimbledon. I guess I'm just going to stop playing tennis. And that's not how you learn tennis, right? That's not
Yep.
how you learn. You can't just say, I want to be like Roger Federer and go pick up a racket. You can't say, I want to be a great writer. All I need is a pen and a piece of paper. I want to be a great photographer. I just need a camera. Those are the tools that you'll use, but you got to learn how to use them. Not everybody's willing to commit themselves to that level, unfortunately.
I would say I'm learning a lot, not only in this industry, but I'm learning how important it is to be resilient and be uncomfortable with not understanding things, and still try anyway, um, through my students as well, because I talk to them about it all the time. You need to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
It's okay to not know how to do something. It's okay that geometry is not your best subject. You still got to try. What can we do differently? And then I listen to myself and I'm thinking, girl, you got to take your own advice. You got to take your own advice. Be okay with being uncomfortable and go for it anyway, because it's easy to procrastinate. It's easy to push off what you don't want to not be good at, or struggle with, rather than just go for it. But once you do, it feels fantastic.
how was your comfort level with, because I know this was something I struggled with when you start to embrace that part of you who is now an audiobook narrator. So you are working on creating and growing a career as an audiobook narrator, but people know you as Katie works in education, worked as Alzheimer's, worked in the restaurant business. Has there been any struggle with working through that as presenting yourself as this is an aspect of me now that I want to begin to bring out to the world? And we touched on this a little bit before we recorded about social media and how we put ourselves out there. What's that been like? Have you given that much thought at this point in your career? Because I know when I owned my pharmacy, had been in politics, starting to tell people that I'm pursuing a career as a professional voice actor. Some people look at me like, I'm sorry, what? So there's a little bit of a mental obstacle to overcome to begin to present yourself in a way that really feels good to you and natural and authentic, but to other people hearing it might be like sound completely off the wall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm happy you brought that up because I remember saying to you back in the fall, last fall, when I was like, Mike, I really am going to do this time, uh, telling my fiance, I don't want to talk to anybody about this. Don't tell anybody, don't tell our friends. I don't want anyone knowing because if I fail, it's going to be embarrassing.
Yep.
And so I wasn't talking about it. And then little by little, of course, my dad starts talking about it to everybody. My dad starts posting pictures of stuff. So then it's out. And then people are talking to me about it. And of course, everybody has their own perspective and they have their own questions. Some of them are, thoughtful. Some of them it's like, why are you saying that? But it does make it, I feel like I was afraid that it would make it so real. And that was scary to me, so I wasn't talking about it. I just actually came back from a conference with other counselors, and one of them came up and said, "What's all this stuff I hear about narration? What are you doing?" And I was like, "How did she hear about this?" So then I'm talking about it, and I could feel myself being a little uncomfortable talking about it, like not owning it fully. Um, and not being able to identify myself yet as a narrator, even though it's happening. It is happening. So it's uncomfortable, but I think that being able to keep saying it over and over again and being confident when people do ask me about it, and they say, well, what is that? And I'll say, well, this is what I've done so far. This is how I'm working in it so far. But it is difficult, I'd say, to start identifying as something new in your 30s. And I know people do this at all different ages. They start at all different ages, but identifying yourself as something that a lot of people wouldn't really be able to grasp of, trying something that is so creative and artistic. And I guess some people would think, that's really out there. But yeah,
It's a struggle. It's
it
a struggle.
is.
I've always said that there's three people that we are. There's the person that we think we are. There's the person that other people think we are. And then there's the person that we think other people think we are.
Yes,
And we
that's
spend a
good.
lot of time in number three, when we
Yes.
really should be hanging out in number one, which is just who do you think you are? Who
Yeah.
do you think you are? How do you see yourself? And that's really all that matters because the people that are close to you, the people that you care about, the people who care about you, more likely than not, they're going to be supportive of you. And that's all that matters. The other people are going to be, you're going to get people. I remember in the beginning when I would go to like a pharmacy dinner or whatever, and I would mention that I was working on narrating a book, or I said I got my first book or something. And I'd had people that would openly laugh at me, like, what? Like, what are you doing? What? They actually thought it was funny,
Hmm.
and you just have to be okay with that level of being uncomfortable around people. And obviously, to whatever comfort level you are. I'm not saying people have to run out into the street and say, I'm a narrator, I'm an actor, I don't care what you think. Everybody has to do it the way they're comfortable with. But the point is, we're both kind of acknowledging that it is a struggle when you're changing your path a little bit and you're veering off the path that other people may expect you to be on, that there may be some pushback. There may be some resistance, and it may not even be from other people. It may be from you imposing your own fears and projecting that onto other people. Oh, they must think I'm crazy. They must think that this is stupid. They
Mm-hmm.
must think that I'll never succeed at this. When that's maybe your own internal fears talking to you. So, not to get too deep, but I think that that is something that people that venture into this world have to be prepared for because it's real.
Yes. You definitely have to find the trust in yourself. You have to be able to trust yourself more than you trust what other people's opinions are about what you're doing. And I think that's also, I think with this career path, there's a lot of room for personal growth because of how much self-trust and, you know, adapting to new things and being willing to be uncomfortable, like we've been talking about. It's an opportunity to grow further and further, honestly, because right now, I'm doing this children's book that I'm so excited for. And then what if something comes along that I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, with the certain characters or a certain genre or whatever it is. Uh, and you got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing through those doors. Okay, now I got to try doing this. Now I got to try doing that. Now I have to find a new comfort level. Now, so I don't think we all get to do that in our everyday life. A lot of the time we're staying to the same routine, and this is a career path that you get to level up and see how much more you can do every time.
It's not a progression that's imposed upon you, right? So,
Hmm.
in education and other
Right.
workforces, you're going to stay where you are until you get that promotion or that
Right.
other job. And so, somebody externally is telling you, okay, we're now going to let you move to this position
Hmm.
or move up. When you're a creator in the gig economy, you're a freelancer, then the sky's the limit in terms of what you can accomplish. And it's really only limited by what your abilities allow you to do. So internally, whatever you're capable of, however you want to challenge yourself, whatever level you want to try to get to. I've done a bunch of audiobooks, but I'm still learning. I still do my own, I go to master classes, I get coached because I'm trying to gain that extra inch, that extra yard. As one of my coaches says, everybody who's an experienced narrator, they've already gone 90 yards down the field. They're on the 10-yard line, but they're never going to score. You're never going to score. You're scraping right now for another inch, another yard. But you don't want to score. You don't want to get to the, okay, that's it. I've gone as far as I can go. We're always trying to get better in any creative endeavor, painting, writing, acting, whatever it may be, dancing. Everybody is trying to hone their skills so they can be the best version of themselves. And do we ever get there? Sometimes we get close, but hopefully we don't ever peak because
Yeah, I
what's
don't
the
think
fun in that,
yeah, I don't think that's the point. I don't
right?
think the point is to peak. I think it's to just keep seeing how much we can get out of ourselves.
Let's talk about social media for a minute because I know we talked
Ah,
about that. We touched on it briefly, but we talked about it before. Um, you have a social media presence, but it's kind of your personal page.
right.
One of the things I think you're working through now is, okay, wait a minute. I got a book. I'm putting some work out there. It's going to be up on Audible soon. Need a website. What's my
Hmm.
social media presence going to be like? Where are you with that? How's that going?
So, like you were saying, now that there is actually a book that's going to happen, um, I was like, all right, well, now this is actually real. What's the next step? And just through conversations with you and other narrators on your workshops and just learning all the ins and outs of, what people are doing and, at what time and stuff. I knew that that was something that would come. I just didn't know when. And now I'm recognizing I do need to start doing a website, creating a website. How's that going to look? And now my mind's going, oh, how am I going to do that? So it's calming myself down again and figuring out, okay, let's just take this step by step. But then also social media. I only have my personal social media, but it is something where figuring out, how to create a professional audiobook narrator uh, social media page. How to do that? What do I want it to look like? Do I want it to show every in and out, ins and outs of all the things that I'm doing each time I'm recording? Do I want it to show, the completed piece, what do I want it to look like? So what do I want that social media to share to the world? What do I want others to see when they watch it? Who is my audience too? You know, who is the audience I'm thinking about when I'm creating this social media page? Um, but knowing that it needs to be done, that is something that I do know. So those two pieces are also just skills on the horizon that I have to develop. Which will also help me with all the technology stuff that I need to improve on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when I've taught courses in the whole VO world and narration world, it's always the first thing is get focused. So you're trying to decide whether you're going to this is something you really want to do. Encourage people to take acting classes, participate in workouts, things like that to see if this is something that you really want. Because sometimes the idea of something and the reality of something are different.
Mhm.
So let's test the waters, right? Before you go and invest in equipment and all that stuff. That's number one. Number two is get coaching. So if you've decided, yes, I want this is something I want to pursue, then you got to get coaching. Even the best athletes in the world have coaches. You've got to go through training, get coaching. You've done that. You work with me. You work with Larry to understand Audacity and get that piece ready to go. That's step two. Step three is understanding the business of running this small business that you're becoming. We haven't really talked about that, but that is an important piece because you
Mhm.
are going to start getting paid for your work. How do you track that?
Oh yeah.
What's your accountant going to say about that? What's your lawyer going to say about that? If you got to start to have income coming in, you got to start to have expenses. Do I need a credit card? Do I need a checking account? Do I need a bank account? Do I need a corporate name? Do I need an LLC? All that stuff is coming, but that's number three because a lot of people will get to step number three and go, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to run my own business. I don't want to be responsible for keeping track of my expenditures and my revenues. I just want to go to work, do my work, and get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And that's perfectly fine. So those pieces are important. And then four is building your brand, right? If you get through one, two, three, now you can start to zero in on, what do I want my brand to look like? What do I want my logo to look like? What do I want my corporate name to be? How do I want to present myself to the world as this now voice actor or narrator? And those are pieces that you need to take the time to figure out. And it's important. That's kind of where you're at. And then the fifth one obviously is not obviously, but the fifth one is get your equipment, get your home recording studio all set up, start to invest in that. You've been doing all those things, but that piece, that final sort of piece to the puzzle is important because I can tell you that a lot of people will come to me who have come to me over the years and been like, I love your logo. What's that logo? I love that microphone. I like your colors that you picked. And it took me a lot of time to figure out what I wanted that to look like and how I wanted to present myself to the world as a voice actor, especially transitioning from another career. That's going to be the next thing on our list of things that Katie and Mike work on is that piece. And I want to encourage other people that are listening that at some point in today's industry, you're going to have to commit to social media at some level because it's really important.
Oh yeah. And I was actually thinking after the book, after, getting the positive news about that book was, all right, so when is the next, should I be doing more than one project at a time? How does Mike do more than one project at a time? You know, I'm sure he has like an agenda or a schedule where he's like, this needs to be done at this time, this needs to be done at that time. You know, how do you not overload yourself? How do you stay organized? All of those pieces. It's like, I know how to do it as a counselor, but how to do it as your own boss is a very different thing. So that is something I've definitely been thinking about for sure.
It's tough. And even though I owned my own businesses, the when I had the freedom to my day where I didn't have to be anywhere, I really had to retrain my own brain to keep a really good to-do list and track my time during the day so that I wasn't getting too distracted and moving into things that weren't business focused or career focused. So there's a lot of challenges that come with, being your own boss and working as a freelance artist for sure. So getting back to your first title, and I know we've talked about this a lot. When you're starting out in the audiobook narrator world, a lot of people are like, "Well, how do I even get a book? How does that work?" What was your process and how did you get your first book?
So you and a few other people from your workshops and from Larry, I had kept hearing ACX. You're going to be using ACX. Did I know what that was? No. But I learned what it was very quickly. So I went on to ACX and I just started looking around, seeing what it's like. I actually was watching some of their videos on YouTube as well. They do, different conferences and discuss, how to utilize ACX. They have a lot of very helpful pieces on ACX to help you figure out what are the next steps for you to do. So putting some samples out there. I think that was my most nerve-wracking piece was I don't have any titles. I don't have anything. So how are people going to find me? And then it was putting out some samples and I thought, where do you get samples? Because there's copyright. You want to make sure that you're doing everything appropriately. So figuring out how to do that and get a couple samples up there so people could just simply hear my voice and how I sound for different genres was the first piece. Once I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, next step. And then jumping in and just looking through ACX for all these different opportunities of books, authors that are looking for narrators, getting to read about, the books and looking at, the audition script that they provide and just running through those, seeing how I sounded, stuff like that, and then just going for it. One that was very appealing to me. I went for it. I auditioned for it, sent it in, and it's on a timeline, so you have to be very cautious of checking your email. Probably getting a professional email. That's another thing I'm going to be doing. But checking your email for the updates. ACX sends you emails. You were offered this opportunity, or this wasn't the opportunity for you, basically. And then it says what to do next, which was so helpful for a direction-oriented person like me. I need directions. So it gave me all of that. You can message with the author through ACX. You put in, a checkpoint, 15-minute checkpoint to let the author see what you've been doing. It's a very streamlined process.
And
And
essentially, it's a
yeah,
contract. When you
yes,
accept that offer, you're entering into a contract with them to
yep,
produce it.
yes. So, and they give you a timeline. It's very helpful for a person who likes step-by-step direction. And it's all there for you, truly. So that's how I've been utilizing it. I really do look at all their help guides, because they truly are helpful.
They are, and the nice thing about ACX, as we mentioned, is that they do have it all structured out for you, and it's free to join. So you
Hmm.
can you can set up an account for free, and it's where audiobook rights holders, mostly indie authors, go to find narrators for their books. And you have the opportunity to audition. They give you the script. So if you connect and they like your work, then they will send you an offer. And that's literally how it works. So the that's the beauty of it. The scary part is that if you're picked, you have to fully produce the book, meaning they have technical specs that you must meet. And the expectation is that when you accept that offer, you are going to fully produce it and deliver files that are ready to be uploaded to Audible and to Amazon. And that terrifies new narrators. It terrified me when I got my first book, terrified you last week. It's terrifying when you get that first book. But again, it goes back to what we talked about before. Everything's figure outable. You'll figure it out.
Indeed, oh my gosh, I was just trying to make everything right. How does this work? How does that work? And of course, texting you all the way, just please, I don't know. But even that being 24, 48 hours ago, I'm like thinking now, okay, so we now know how that works. And now we have to move on to figure out how the next thing works. So it is just taking it moment by moment. Okay, now we're done with that. Let's go on to the next piece. So absolutely, it's nerve-wracking. It's time sensitive. You have to be, very good with your time management, but also be willing to stay up a little later to get things done. Go past what your normal schedule is. You have to be willing to make the time
Yeah,
to do it.
especially if you're working in the margins like you are and I
Yeah.
was, is you got to challenge yourself. Early
Yes.
mornings, late nights, that's what you got to
Yes.
do if you want to make it a success. So,
Absolutely.
um, all right, so one last question before we wrap up. If you were talking to an aspiring voice actor narrator, a little bit not quite as far along as you are in the journey, and you had to give them just one piece of advice from what your experience has been so far in your career, what would that one piece of advice be?
I would probably say find someone that you can rely on and confide in as a mentor.
I didn't tell her to say that either.
I swear you didn't. But it made it seem possible to have you there and have somebody that's like, okay, they've been through this. Um, and I don't know how much, guidance or mentorship you had when you did it, but if you didn't, it must have been scary because truthfully, it was knowing that I had you there that I was like, okay, if I don't understand this, he has the patience to help me. Um, that was really the catalyst, truly, because I don't think I would have moved forward. I would have kept being afraid. And also having somebody that you can rely on also holds you accountable
Hmm.
to yourself because I could easily procrastinate and just say, "Oh yeah, I'll do that again." But I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm doing this thing with Mike, so I have to make sure that I have you want to respect everybody's time and you start to feel that they're also relying on you because you're utilizing their time. So being a professional and it all kind of works together in that way. They're mentoring you, but you have to also show up and do your best. So it motivates you at the same time. So that's what I'd say. Find somebody that believes in you and that can give you that knowledge uh, and the confidence to keep trying.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it helps to have somebody who says, I believe in you, that you're going to do this.
Hmm.
You can do this. And to give you that little boost of confidence when it might be waning a little bit, that
Hmm.
to know that there's somebody that's been on this journey and is telling you you can do this, Katie. So let's go.
Hmm.
And that's important for anybody really in any walk of life, is to have somebody who's willing to tell them that they believe in them. So I think it's been a ton of fun being that mentor for you and also watching your career progress from a few years ago to where you are now with your first book has really been a joy to watch. And as I've said to you multiple times on the workouts and just in person, that you have an innate talent that God has given you, and to see you using that talent to fulfill something inside of you that needs to be fulfilled, but also giving that gift to the world, I think is a great combination. And I'm just proud of you. Very proud of you.
I appreciate that. You're gonna make me blush. Oh my
Don't you
gosh.
dare. Don't you dare. So if you do want somebody to reach out and connect with you and say hi, I know don't have a lot of social media presence right now, but what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, for now, I would say I do have an Instagram. It's a personal Instagram, but I still check, my messages and I'd love to connect with anybody. It's Katie_Keary. My last name's spelled Keary. So Katie_Keary is my Instagram. And then I do have a Gmail, which again, I know we need to get professional. Audiobook narrator email, but my Gmail is kgkeary@gmail.com. Definitely. Email me. I'm now in that professional setting. I need to check my email every single day.
Every day. Every
Every
day.
day. So I'm there.
That's awesome. And it's Katie is Katie.
Yes. Katie. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Katie, so much for coming on the podcast, sharing your journey with my listeners. I'm excited for you, and I wish you continued success on your journey.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Mike Lenz VO podcast. Head on over to MikeLenzVOpodcast.com for links and recaps of each show. Catch you next time on the Mike Lenz VO podcast.